But first, we're all used to thanking our veterans during the month of November, but we actually have a special thank you for a very special veteran tonight.
His name is Lieutenant Colonel Fred Masterson. He has just celebrated his 100th birthday, and boy does he have some great stories about the war and about how things have changed over the last 100 years.
And you know what? We sat down and talked a little bit just a few weeks ago.
Fred Masterson has lived a very full life. And the exciting part started when he entered the Air Force.
I was 19 when I enlisted, and by the time I got in, I was 20. And I wanted to fly.
And you did get to fly.
I did. I was very, very fortunate.
What's it like the first time you went up?
First time I went up, beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, but how about the first time you went up during the war, like on a mission?
That I always figured that I could get out of any situation as long as the airplane didn't blow up.
None of his planes blew up, and he flew everywhere.
But I flew Europe 30 missions, Australia, Hawaii, islands in between, New Zealand, Iwo, Guam. I wasn't in China and I wasn't in Maine, Russia. Everywhere else, you name the island or where it was, and I'll tell you, I probably was there.
He learned a lot, like why timing in the military has to be exact.
When I was in cadets flying, we flew a triangle mission, and I was proud of myself. I was there 1 minute early, and I was patting myself on the back, and he just chewed me out something awful. He says, I didn't tell you to get here at 11:59. I didn't tell you here to get here at 12:01. I told you to be here at 12 o'clock. I never forgot that, because when I flew on a brilliant airlift, that was very, very important. We took off regardless of the weather. We took off 3 minutes apart. You flew 3 minutes apart, 150 miles an hour, not 149, not 151, but 150. You knew who was in front of you and who was in back of you, and they were going to do the same thing.
He made a lot of memories, and he brought back a lot of stories.
I had some narrow ones, but we got hit a few times, and I got my heater shot out at 30,000 feet. And if you think it isn't cold up there, just go up. And I was so sick when I got on the ground. I had 10 blankets on my bed, and I put 9 of them on top of me and 1 underneath me, and I crawled into bed.
But it wasn't long before he was back up and flying. He was there for the end of the war.
And I was on Saipan Island when the war ended out there. That's in the Marshall Islands. And I was in Japan the day after the treaty was signed.
He came home safe and with medals for his courage.
How long were you in the military? How many years in?
23 years.
Fred has lived through more than a dozen presidents.
I've lived through 16 or 17 presidents, some good, some bad. I'd vote for 3 of them. That's it. The rest of them, they could go jump in a lake. It wouldn't bother me a bit.
He weathered the Big Depression.
The Depression changes people. You look at things today where people won't go to work, where they think they're in a depression, and they don't know what a depression is, really.
You see, Fred was part of a generation that approached hard times by helping each other out.
And I worked from time I was 5 years old. We had a truck farm, and we had an acre of ground or more, raised all our food, had 500 chickens.
Which taught him another important life lesson.
Nobody went hungry in the neighborhood as long as we had eggs. So everybody helped everybody else, I'll put it that way.
Lieutenant Colonel Fred Masterson has lived through a lot of history. He put his life on the line to fight for the freedoms we enjoy today. We see him as a hero, but that's not how he sees himself.
So I was very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. I really consider myself the luckiest guy in the world.
So again, thank you for your service, Fred. and for sharing such a colorful life.